Hello, my lovely darlings. Today I'm talking about cartoon comic man programming in the second part of the Mask Girl analysis. The man we look at is the office worker who's mostly ignored and overlooked, and at some point he falls in love with Nomi, who's Mask Girl. I need to mention the controversial aspect here because he doesn't really fall in love with the real Nomi, although it might appear like that to the viewer at first. He believes he's in love with her, but he's actually interested in her on-screen persona because he doesn't notice her until she becomes a camgirl star. So this male character grows up in front of a screen and pleases himself regularly to fictional characters from an early age. He becomes emotionally attached to cartoonish female figures who act out in ways that normal women wouldn't do naturally. It's more common in places like Japan or China. However, with the rise of social media and men throwing their hard-earned cash at camgirls, it is now a global epidemic. This programming started in China as a form of social control, I believe. South Korea is also particularly bad, and I didn't know that about South Korea because when I came there, actually the first time, I thought, wow, people, they hold hands, there are so many couples. But South Korea is actually the lowest birth and marriage rates in the world. And the Mask Girl programming is really bad. There, I actually do believe there is a connection. Without wanting to offend anyone, I also noticed that the programming is a lot more extreme in lower classes. Let's say you try an app like Tinder and you date people from lower classes. I'm really sorry if this offends anyone, so you have to say that today. But that's actually where you notice these types of people. So I'm not really blunt, but I have to say what I have observed. Those men on dating apps, the lower class dating apps, I tried Tinder in Dubai. And it was really a terrible experience, seriously terrible. If you decide you want to give a man a chance that you actually wouldn't date normally, just because you don't want to be superficial. But you have to be careful. These men have the worst kind of masculine programming. They will start to abuse you. Let's say you date a guy that is much shorter than you or, kind of overweight or anything. These men have some of the worst programming I have ever seen, and they suffer. They really do suffer because of that, but they will never truly understand what might have been done to them. And in Dubai, this programming is also extremely bad, I've noticed. So I want to explain that because some men, they don't seem to understand what women have to go through when they try to date somebody just because of their personality. We try to be good people and give men a chance. And these men, because they spend most of their lives in front of the screen, those less attractive men and men that are kind of invisible, they tend to abuse you emotionally. I'm not saying physically, but you can get some seriously abusive behaviors from these kinds of men, and they attack you. And after a while, you just ignore them and you just avoid them. So this is what happens to a lot of women. You have to understand that we go through things with these kinds of men who can be seriously disturbingly delusional. And that's when you notice you date somebody who is much better looking or much wealthier, and a normal person who goes out and meets real people and has normal relationships, they will be completely different. They treat you with respect, with love, with care. You don't get any kind of abuse. So that's my point that I need to express to men who don't seem to understand why then women become so-called, in apostrophes, bitches towards these men, but we might have tried, and because of their programming, they have some disturbing behavior, and they will put you down, they will try to sleep with you, and if you don't sleep with them, they will abuse you emotionally. So you have to understand, it's not that we are bad people, but we sometimes need to protect ourselves. So this character in Mask Girl perfectly illustrates how these men are raised. They don't develop social skills, and they are usually addicted to pornography and masturbate a lot. You can see what it does to the male brain when this character starts to dream romantically, in apostrophes, of Nomi, and he falls in love with her. And the only thing he can imagine is Nomi approaching him and giving him a blowjob. I'm sorry for my wording. I actually don't know how else to say it. So because they don't have contact to many real life women, they learn from these on-screen pornography characters that this is how normal women behave, and they expect that from women who show interest in them. That is why they believe approaching a woman is becoming immediately sexual, and they will start to get very aggressive if you don't give them what they want, because they assume this is normal. And if you don't give them sexual gratification, it means you're not interested in them personally. They do not know how to become emotional with a woman or how to show interest in a loving and kind way. And they also don't understand how to show interest in her personality. So these kinds of men become quickly very disillusioned and disappointed with normal women because they don't really understand why they behave a certain way. And these women don't fulfill their expectations, which they have been shown on screen for many, many years. One can only imagine what happens when these two archetypes, Mask Girl and the cartoon man, come together, which happens a lot. And these two programmed people will interact with each other. It usually leads to a lot of emotional abuse and also physical abuse in the long run, disappointment, and a lot of pain also. Another problem that I mentioned before with this man is that he only likes the person who is somehow on a screen and therefore some kind of star. This is when he actually becomes interested in Nomi, because he notices that she is in fact Mask Girl by seeing the color of her nails, which he also noticed on screen. That's when he becomes interested in her, and for many years before, he didn't notice her at all. Now with social media, men are in fact interested and attracted to women who have a large following or great social media profile, and often blame these women to use filters or fake their persona in real life, when we all just show our best side on social media. Also, many apps that women are forced to use have built-in filters. I sometimes even think the iPhone has a built-in filter, and we women use them without even knowing what we do, and then we get blamed for it when meeting men, often men with these kinds of programs, and we get shamed while sometimes we don't even know that we're using filters, because TikTok, for example, has always one kind of filter that you have to use when you use their camera. And many women aren't even aware of that fact. And many men will think now, oh yeah, this is just a basic guy, the bottom class guy. I don't have any kind of programming. But I would include the music and the movie industry in this kind of programming. It's just on a different level, because it features a lot of characters and women who aren't real. They're characters, they're made up people. And men attach to these characters and believe this is what a normal woman has to be like. Another thing that happens, what I have noticed, we women are natural people pleasers. So sometimes we take on these characters, we notice or we sense what men expect from us. So we start to act out like these characters. A lot of women do that. We don't even notice. And then sometimes when the so-called mask, the mask programming falls off, we get shamed. Some men, they tell us, oh, you were just acting, you were just pretending to be someone you're not. And women sometimes do that because we like to please men, we like to make them happy, and we sense what they might expect from us. And then some men get really disappointed when the mask comes off in a stressful situation, and they blame women. But it's just that these programs are really damaging to both genders, and they have been used to divide, I believe, men and women. Both genders thrive on attention from each other. So when women notice that certain characters on screen get a lot of attention, they naturally take on these character traits and act out similarly, just because they think this is how you should be and this is how you make men happy. It is often that we don't even acknowledge that. We do it naturally. People do it naturally, that they take on character traits that they feel are more appreciated. So if you see the Kardashians, or if you see certain people on Instagram having millions of followers, and often it is fake anyway, then girls start to take on the character traits because they think that's the natural way to behave, to make people or men happy. And then the cognitive dissonance happens when they get shamed for it, and people tell them, oh, you have to put your clothes on, while everybody else was doing that with millions of followers, and men actually follow these women and admire these women as stars. But some girls try to do the same and get shamed for that. And that's where actually the problem happens, that women then get angry at men, and they start to, there's a conflict happening between both genders when you have this cognitive dissonance messages being sent to them, where you actually don't really know anymore what to do. So the cartoon man office worker doesn't fall in love with Nomi, the boring, normal woman who works in the office. He falls in love with the on-screen character with millions of followers who is hyped and appreciated. And that's what the problem is, I think, how it describes the problem of this programming of men, that they really want this specific type of character, and it never works in real life. So the main conflict is that people look for someone to worship and not really to fall in love with. And that's about this programming. Of course, there are exceptions. Yes, I'm just talking about this programming now. So these people who attach to on-screen characters, they look for someone to worship, and they get disillusioned with a normal person. These men often, they chase women, or they attach to women who are actually way out of their league. And I mean by that, they're too young. They're like very beautiful girls who have money because they work a lot in these cam girl profession. And these men are usually not capable to provide the same kind of lifestyle that they have. So they are kind of stars, but these men somehow want to believe that they can have them because they are, poor girls working as cam girls, and they easily fall for, ideas. And when the girls tell them, oh, I need money, or they make up lies, and because they have to. And these men often get lured into destructive behaviors, where they send all their money to some girl in Russia who is 23 and he's 59, never married, and lives in a basement. And it's sad. It's seriously sad. So this is where I actually don't support Andrew Tate, because he does exactly that to men, and he pretends, or he says that he actually supports men and he wants to help men, but then he has these women who use men and take their money through these scam girls, because he even claimed himself that he's pretending sometimes to be the girls because he knows better what makes men give their money to women. So in my opinion, this is a very conflicting message. And therefore, I changed my opinion about Andrew Tate, because first I actually thought he was supporting men and masculinity. But, it seems to be just some kind of PR, and he knows what he's doing. He found a niche, but I don't really believe he cares about men in general. Many of these men are so overly sexualized that all they think about is how many women they can get to sleep with them. And they usually also read pickup artist books that make them do certain things to lure women into believing they're romantically interested in them. An example is, take a woman to as many bars as possible in one evening, because it gives her the feeling that you had many dates, so she will easily sleep with you. I noticed how someone did that with me. So then I actually, because I I read some of these books, I wanted to know what men do. And then I found this trick in one book, and oh boy, I was just so shocked. I have to say it didn't work on me though. But it really teaches people how to become psychopathic towards the other gender and to take advantage of each other. And in some way, this is what has led to the current society, where people feel they're not really so happy how things are going and disenchanted with each other. So you just have to look into it. And especially these kinds of men, the comic men who have this extreme programming, they can become very emotionally abusive, and they're not very happy people, and many of them, they stay lonely for their entire lives. But they don't truly understand what has been done to them, and they often start to blame women and put all their anger and hate out on women who don't really know what is going on with them. Like, most women have no idea. So guys, in my opinion, Andrew Tate is not really your friend. He's somebody who knows what he's doing. He came from a wealthy family with good contacts. His father worked for the CIA. So his path was pretty much, it is much easier for someone like that to have success. And the way he treats men in his company with these cam girls, it just shows that he's not really caring too much how many he hurts financially. Why would you think he cares about your money with his courses and whatever else he offers? That's just what I think. It's my personal opinion. So I just want to tell you, be compassionate with people. Try to understand when they behave in certain ways that might not seem appropriate. There might be a dark shadow layer behind it all. Also, overall, try to avoid men who live their lives in front of the screen, be it watching too many movies, being obsessive about Instagram, social media, because these men usually have this programming. And I've also noticed that they lose interest much quicker with one woman. They're easily dissatisfied. And it can lead to a lot of trauma and, emotional pain for women. They usually blame it on themselves, but it has nothing to do with you, and also not really with the man. It's just something that happened with him, and you shouldn't blame yourself for that. Most of all, become aware of your own programming, how you might have been pushed into some certain behavior and ideas. if your standards are very high, I mean, you can be an extremely beautiful woman, but if your standards are so high and you want to have a billionaire with this and this and this and this, and you have done nothing with your life, and we're just traveling the world in Dubai and everything, but you have never actually studied or built anything for yourself, maybe you think about it that maybe you should do something. That's just all I want to say. But women have the same kind of delusional programming, like a lot of stuff. Like we all tend to have much higher standards than in the past. And this has a lot to do with these screen programming, cartoon man programming, or masculine programming. And women also, if they have masculine programming, they usually want to compensate for it with material gain. That's what I've also noticed. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say for today. I thank you for listening. I hope I could inspire you in some way. Maybe you come back, maybe not. I love you all and take care. See you soon. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.